because that's what health actually is when you boil things down to its real basic fundamentals, when you get down to the lowest point. Health is that transfer of electrons, right? It's the current, like you said, like you've stated before, and that's not
Health
really
is electron supply. Health is electron supply, and getting the electrons where they need to go, and repairing the molecules that have been damaged by having their electrons taken away. That may seem to some people to be too simplistic, but I guarantee you that's exactly it. There are two phases to effective treatment of anything. One is repair, okay, which is good antioxidants, bringing oxidized biomolecules back to their reduced, normally functioning state. And there's prevention, and prevention is turning off the new toxin sources. Now, that's simple. I'm not saying clinical therapy is simple. There's a lot of complications involved in getting the right protocol for certain patients. But we've gotten to the point now where when you include 3 or 4 basic things in your treatment of anything, you're going to start getting improvement. And that's the things that target the toxins, target the pathogens that are creating the toxins, which is always the case. I mean, unless you have something silly in your life, like you're living next to a fertilizer factory and you're inhaling pesticides all day long, that's one thing. But outside of that situation, if you're sick because you have foci of pathogens in the affected tissue that you have disease, and it's their metabolism that continues to produce the toxins to keep the disease going. It's called chronic pathogen colonization. We've got it documented in the brain, in the heart, in the gut, nearly every organ you can think of that they've looked. You have chronic pathogen colonization, and almost always the pathogens are typical for oral pathogens. So we come back to root canals, other infected teeth, infected gums, and infected tonsils. Those are the reasons for nearly all conditions and the worsening of all diseases.
Really, that's quite fascinating.
Absolutely.
So why is that?
I have an article coming out right now.
Metals in the mouth, is it, or?
Well, no, not the metals. I have an article that's coming out any day now. It's entitled "Root Canals Cause Breast Cancer Frequently." I mean, I've tried to emphasize this in so many other ways, and women from around the world, I had this cancer, that, or the other. How much vitamin C should I take? And I said, wait a second, I write back. Here's a book, Hidden Epidemic. Almost always it's coming from your mouth, and you need to see the dentist, the right dentist, biological dentist, and you need to get a cone beam examination, and I write it back. And I guess okay, but how much vitamin C do I take? I mean, the point is completely missed. And it's a tragedy because in the mouth, these teeth, and we have the documentation, it's all going to be in this new paper coming out. You have isolated the pathogens in the breast tissue. The lymphatic drainage is going from these teeth into the breast tissue. And when the lymph gets overwhelming and sluggish, you get a cancer. There's not any disease at all that develops until you have a focus of excessive increased oxidative stress, oxidated biomolecules, in a chronic fashion. And when the oxidative level is extremely high, you go from just having a chronic non-malignant disease into a malignant or cancerous disease. And it's really that simple. I mean, it's the etiology is so elegantly straightforward, okay, in all chronic diseases. Everything is oxidative stress. An earlier article I wrote is that toxins cause all cardiomyopathies, congestive heart failure. In patients that were being screened for heart transplantation, they had the big, dilated hearts, horrible, floppy, not contracting well. And they did biopsies, as they usually do, but in this case, they also did heavy metal levels, heavy metal concentrations. Now, listen to this, and this was not the exception, this was the rule in just about everyone that they tested this way. They found 22,000 times, that's 2,200,000% more mercury inside the heart failure tissue than in normal heart tissue. They found 1,100,000% more antimony inside the heart tissue than normal tissue. Why so much mercury? Well, guess what? That's where it's been going from the generations of people that we've had with mercury fillings and the vapor going up into their brain and into the rest of their body. And it's really amazing when you do proper chelation, you start pulling these metals out. Lo and behold, this entity called congestive cardiomyopathy that cardiologists around the world think is irreversible is not irreversible. I mean, there are some people that will reverse, but very many of them, if you chelate them right and you give them ATP stimulating agents such as niacinamide, riboflavin, coenzyme Q10, and methylene blue, you jack up that energy production, you pull the toxins out, and guess what? The heart starts contracting better again. I mean, not quickly. These are things that evolved over a long period of time. So the return to health is slow, but it's steady and it's predictable.
Yeah, that is really remarkable to hear. Because especially when you mentioned mercury now as well, because mercury is so toxic to the body. And I believe as well, if I'm right in saying that it can pass the blood-brain barrier. Is that right, Dr. Levy?
Oh, yeah. No, it goes to the blood in the brain very easily. Something also not acknowledged by quote-unquote modern medicine is mercury fillings. From what I've seen, and I spent a lot of time with Dr. Huggins looking at this and watching what he did, most cases of multiple sclerosis and many other neurological diseases are just the fact that they've had mercury accumulation. And unfortunately, they or their healthcare practitioners really don't have a clue. But I've also seen patients already with multiple sclerosis get better, significantly better, when they start chelating out the mercury, saunas, DMSA, other agents. A lot of natural agents, too, are good chelators. But all of these things mobilizes the mercury, and patients get better. Patients get better from conditions that medicine considers to be irreversible. It's sad. It's tragic, okay? And once again, no mention of any of this in the textbooks of medicine. Even though this article in 1999, it was I think it was in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. So it's in the subspecialist journal. I don't know what everybody did. They must have just looked at it and laughed and said, wow, what a crazy article that is. I don't know. I did see the article myself, and it only made sense to me recently and not at the time. So I'm not saying that somebody is bad intentioned if they don't realize something at the time, because we're all a function of the knowledge that we have and the situation that we have. And there's many times when a certain fact pattern hits you in the face and nothing sinks in. And then months or years later, a similar fact pattern hits you and you have the light go on.
Yeah.
But anyway, the data is there. It's not at all hidden. It's in mainstream journals. And as the article shows, there's a lot of other heavy metals that cause a great deal of damage to the heart. Copper among them. Copper is the people that promote taking copper as a supplementation is horrible. You should never.
Is that right?
Never.
I actually thought copper was I bought into the whole copper thing. I bought into that.
No. I have another article called The Toxic Nutrient Triad: calcium, copper, and iron. You absolutely need them for life, but above a certain level, and I don't say this just to be dramatic, you need them for death. Calcium, iron, and copper are the primary players in determining when a cell dies, when the levels get too high. So, and all the data is there. But the thing is they say, oh, well, copper or iron does so many things that are important in the body. Yes, that's true. But they're doing it as cofactors. Okay, so it's not like they're a substrate being used up. They're just being swapped back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to power enzymes that they're needed for. That takes a very tiny amount of iron, a very tiny amount of copper. And when you just think, oh, well, it helps all these enzymes, it must be good, I'm going to take a lot more. No, 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 no. It all breaks apart then because these are heavy metals, and not both, but iron, copper, and calcium are the primary promoters of increased oxidative stress inside your cells. And as we just said earlier, increased oxidative stress, increased oxidized biomolecules, that is the foundation of all disease. I mean, when you have a Alzheimer's cell, okay, it doesn't have Alzheimer's disease. It doesn't have some unique, ill-defined thing that's making the cell sick. What it has is its own unique array, concentration, and location of oxidized biomolecules, nothing more.